The job that I have as Parliamentary Commissioner for the Environment is very unusual, but a very cool job. The main feature of it is the parliamentary part of it, that I'm actually, as it were, part of Parliament, or attached to Parliament rather than government, and that means that I'm independent. And so I am free to really be free and frank in the advice that I give. And of course, being, as it were, having this relationship with Parliament, for me, it's very important to build up that relationship with the MPs and become a trusted advisor on environmental matters. Oh, climate change is the biggest issue. Make no mistake about that. Climate change really threatens everything else in the environment. This Earth can be likened to an onion, with the atmosphere around it as the onion skin. That is how thin the layer is that separates us from space. And we really damage that at our peril. I think that obviously the science is complex and there's been a lot of public debate around it, but the scientific consensus is very, very broad and very strong. And I have become aware over the last 15 years or so that how much that consensus has, if you like, thickened up and strengthened. But also, I think the other part that I find really quite upsetting is that the predictions have got progressively more gloomy. And so, this does sometimes keep me awake at night, thinking about what kind of world we're leaving to future generations. Well, we do hear a lot with water quality about dairying being a huge problem. What I did recently was really give quite a scientific presentation with lots of photos and graphs to a group of MPs on water quality, because I feel that the debate in this country is very polarised, and there's a certain amount of scientific understanding that people who engage in that debate really need to have before we can talk sensibly with each other instead of past each other. I think that the exercise of preparing that presentation for me and my staff was quite interesting. We had to make it accessible, and really had to understand things. I mean, I learned things that I didn't know before, and it was interesting to see the effect of what was coming off dairy land versus what was coming off sheep and beef land, for example. Interesting to see the sources like town sewage of pollutants compared with others. But this is a big problem for New Zealand. It's taken us, I think, somewhat unawares. Certainly the growth in dairying, with a big problem there being simply the nitrogen in the urine patches that result, and farms being rather leaky things, the nitrates being very soluble, find their way through groundwater into the waterways. And so a lot of what has happened has really happened very fast, and we really are struggling to catch up. But we do have Land and Water Forum, which is an experiment in what is known as collaborative governance for New Zealand, coming out soon. So I think that we will begin to make some steady progress here, but certainly it is a serious problem. I think the fuss over Schedule 4 mining is particularly interesting, because I think many of the people who have made submissions, for example, probably seldom, if ever, visit these special places in our country, but it's important to us to know they're there. And I think that the clean green image is one version of it, is the version that we use for marketing our products overseas, and the version that brings the tourists here. But the other part of the clean green image, in a way, is how we see ourselves as Kiwis. And I think for us, we see ourselves as people of the land who live in a beautiful place, who are in touch with the environment. And it really is very encouraging to see so many individuals and households changing the way they live and work, and taking a strong interest in green technologies and so on. taking on this individual responsibility. I have twice come back to New Zealand from living overseas, once on the west coast of the United States and once on the east coast of the United States. And what draws me back, apart from family and friends, is really this is where I belong. The landscapes here I'm familiar with, they feel like home, and we do have this much closer relationship with a natural environment than people are able to have in other countries. So personally, that's very important to me. I know when I used to fly back from Boston, I would get off the plane at Auckland Airport, and you walk, as many people will know, from the overseas terminal to the domestic terminal to get into the country. And I used to always be amazed by simply, even though I was walking between sort of chain link fences, by the greenness of the grass. And this is a wonderfully green country, a country full of growing things. It's special. And I do worry that we see it because of the beauty of our landscapes, which is naturally there, that we can take it for granted. We must make the clean green reality fit the clean green image. I think that long term, it's my view that the cleanness and greenness of New Zealand, if you like, remains our point of difference actually with other countries, and it is our comparative advantage economically, and we need to build on this as much as we can.